Welcome back everyone. So in today's video I will be showing you how to load data from Google Sheets into Google BigQuery. Alright, as you can see from this diagram, the two services that we'll be using in Google Cloud Platform are Google Sheets and Google BigQuery. Alright, so our data will be living in Google Sheets and we will be loading this data into BigQuery and then basically use BigQuery to query this data that is living in Google Sheets. Alright, so let's jump into the demo now. So I will first go into our BigQuery environment, and for that I do have here a BigQuery editor or a studio open. So I did log into my GCP environment, went into the project that I will be using. And so right here, what we want to do is to have a data set where we will be creating our table in that will be pointing into the file in Google Sheets. All right, so for that one, I have this data set here, CK data deck. I do have a number of other tables already in this data set, but we will be loading our file here for Google Sheets, right? So this is a data set, and I just want to show you that quickly. And then once we have that one set up, what we want to go ahead now is move over to Google Sheets, and I have the file here that I want to load to BigQuery. Right, so this is how the file looks like, and this file basically contains a list of movies, and these are mostly Netflix movies, and these are the columns or field names that are contained in this file here. So we have the show ID, the type, title, director, some additional fields include country, we have rating, descriptions, and all of that, right? So it contains a number of movies that were produced by Netflix and the actors and all of that, right? If you check here, we have about 8,807 actual records, and that is excluding the first row here. And the first row here, of course, has the columns. So the actual rows there are 8,807. Okay, so this is a file that we want to load over to BigQuery. Okay, so how do we do that? So to do that, what you want to do is go over to your BigQuery Studio, which is right here, right? So this is the editor or the studio. And what you want to do is go to the data set that you want to load this data to. So in my case, I will be using this one. And what you want to do is just click into this data set, and you will see these three paths right here next to this data set. Just click into this. You will see some options. We want to select this one for create table, and then so we just want to fill this template now in order to bring our data from from Google Sheets into BigQuery. All right, so we want to configure the source now, and our source here, if you click into this, you will see a number of options here. The source that we want to choose for this one will be Drive. Okay, so this will be Google Drive. So just select that, and then for the format here, what you want to do is select Sheet, Google Sheet, and we want to enter the Drive URI. So basically this is the link for the Google Drive, for the Google Sheets, right? So to get this URI here, what you want to do is go over to your Sheets, and then basically just click. You can just get the link from here in the bar, or you can go here where it says share, and then basically copy the link, and then go over to your BigQuery, and then paste that link right here, right? Okay, so you paste that link here, and that now is going to be pointing into the Google Sheets, right? So this is the URL for Google Sheets. And of course, yeah, in the file format, you want to select Google Sheets for that, okay? And you can select the sheet range here. So if you have several sheets, then you can select the range here. But in this case, this is just one Google Sheets. So I'm not going to put anything here. All right, so this is our source. Our source is now configured. And then the next thing that we want to configure is for the destination. And we know that we want to load this file to BigQuery. So by default, our project, this is just our GCP project, and the data set that we'll be using in BigQuery, you can put that right here. So in my case, we mentioned that we will be using this data set for CK data deck, but if you want to choose a different data set, then you can just type the data set right here. Okay, so that's the data set where your table will be created in. Okay, and now we want to enter the name for the table, and this table now will be the table that is going to point into the sheets file that we have here. So for this one, I'm going to name this one Netflix movies. Okay, so that will be the name of the table that will be created. And when you scroll down here, you will see now that under the table type, we only have one option here, and this one is external table. Okay, so usually there are two options here that you will see. One is external table and the other one is native table. External table means that your data will be stored outside of BigQuery, but you can use BigQuery to run queries against that file, right? So you can still run SQL scripts in BigQuery to get information about this file. So that's external table. And then the other one we have is native table. And native table is when you have the data living in BigQuery. So in this case, this is Google Sheets. So basically our data will be stored in Google Drive. So we are not loading the data to BigQuery, right? So this is the only option here, and we will just leave it as it is. And when we come down to the schema here, we have two options. So you can go with auto detect, and auto detect will basically scan through your file and then create a schema for you, and that basically will be the column name or the field name and the associated data type. Okay, so that will be created in BigQuery. So BigQuery will do this for you automatically if you go with auto detect, and that's what I will do. But if you don't want that, if you have your JSON schema or JSON file with the schema configurations and everything, then you can go ahead and just paste that here. So usually that will be just a JSON file that contains the field names and the data types and maybe descriptions and things like that. So you can paste that here if you already have it prepared, and then go ahead and load it, right? So for my case, I will go with this option. I will have BigQuery decide the data types for me, and then create the table with those data types. Okay, we go down here in advanced options. We have one option here, and or two, a few options here really. The first one here is if you want to check unknown values here, and this one says when enabled, rows with extra column values that do not match the schema will be ignored and will not be imported into BigQuery, right? So in a situation where you defined your own schema here, if there are any rows that do not match the schema that you have put up here, then those will be ignored, right? So you can check this if you want that feature to be in place. I'm not going to do that. And then for the header rows to skip, right here, what it's asking you is if you want to skip the header rows in your file, right? So in my situation, what we will do is we are going to skip the first row because the first row, we want this to be treated as the field names, right? We want to bring this as the field names to BigQuery. So again, we are not bringing the data for this one into BigQuery. If you have watched some of my previous videos, where we used native, we did not skip it for that. But for external tables, because we want the data to stay in the drive, we are not taking it to BigQuery, then naturally we want to skip the first one, because that is going to be our header, right? So right here, then what I will do here is basically just put here 1, and those will be our header rows. So basically row number 1 represents our headers. And for here, you can choose to enable, you do see here, enable to include new lines containing new coded lines. So if you enable this one, if you check this, basically what this does is if there's a column that contains values in your data, and the values do have new lines, then what this option is going to do is make sure that the new lines within that row are treated just as a row by itself. It does not go to a new line. But it does not matter in this external table here, because the file will still live in the sheets. So these two options here, I don't think matter that much, so I'm just going to ignore this for now. I'm not going to check any of this. And then after that, we'll basically just go ahead and hit create the table. So I'm just going to do that, and as you can see, we did not have any errors, and we have our table created now. So if you just click here, go to table, this will take you to your table, or you can go to your data set and refresh it, and you'll see your table created. All right, so as you can see now, we have our table created, and we have the field names showing right here with the data types as well. So you can see show ID is a string, type is a string. We do have here date added, which you will think will be a date, but this one is coming as a string. The release here is coming as an integer in this scenario, right? Okay, so we have our data here now, and if you, or metadata, including the schema really, and if you go to details here, you can see additional information about how this table is created. And because we define this as an external table, you will see here external data configuration, and this one is basically pointing into this one, right? It's including here the URI. So basically this is a URL that we specified, and this is where your data is located. So if you click this, this is going to take you into your sheets file in Google Drive, and you can basically see how the data looks like there, right? Okay, so that is just one thing that you can see here, and you can also see some other information like auto detect schema here. We put this to be true, and we did not ignore any unknown values, and the format here is Google Sheets. So you can see that information here, and you can see that we specified that we want to skip the first row for this one, because those are our headers, right? Okay, so that's the information right here, and now you can just go through the rest of this, but now how do you query this data? So to do that, what you want to do is basically just open a new query editor here if you want, or you can basically just select the table here and hit here where it says query, and now you can see that we have this table here pre-populated for you. And since this is an external table, we do not have a preview of the data, so you can do something like you can just select star for this, and maybe in this case we are showing the first 1,000 records, so just go ahead and select star for this, and then just run, and this should give you an idea of how your data looks like. Okay, so if you run that, then you can see now that we have the data showing up here, right? So you can see we have the show ID, type, title, movie, and all of that, right? And if you do count of this data here, we will see if we will get the number of rows, the total number of rows that are contained in this table, our file, and as you can see, we have 8,807, which should pretty much match what we have here in this file, right? So if you go here, you can see that we have 8,800. It says here 808 because it's including the first row here, which is containing our headers. So the actual number of rows that we have here are 8,807. So it's basically matching what we have here in BigQuery, right? So what you can do from here is basically then run your queries against that file. So even though the data is stored in Google Drive, you can still run your queries right here in Google BiQuery Studio, and then basically treat it as any other table that you had in BigQuery. So if you are doing some sort of, say, migrations and you wanted to validate your data, say you have an Excel file which contains your legacy data, and then you have data that's in BigQuery and you want to compare the two, then you could do something like this where you are loading your files from Sheets to BigQuery, and then you're basically comparing your data to make sure that they are matching properly, right? So once you do this, you can basically run queries as you would against a native table within BigQuery, right? So let's do one thing now. I'm just going to go back and we want to preview this data, right? So let's see how our data looks like. And as you can see, we do have the field names up here. So what we want to do here is, right, so we have the country here. Basically, this is the country where this movie was produced. So maybe let's do South Africa. Let's select movies that were produced in South Africa, contained in this file here. All right, so for that, maybe we can do something like this, select star. So we basically want to select everything here. In BigQuery, just if you have a large file, what you want to do is to ensure performance, you mostly want to select the columns that you need. But in this case, I just want, this is a small file, so I will just select everything. All right, so so we want to say where country is South Africa. And then we want to maybe let's say, yeah, let's just order this by the year it was released, right? So we'll order this by release here. Release here, right? And sometimes if you don't like your formatting, you can highlight this and click more here and then just format this query, and that will format your query nicely, right? And you can see here that this, we get a green check mark here, meaning that our query, the syntax is proper. So it compiled this query and found that this query is valid. We can run it. There are some scenarios where if there are any issues with your query, you will get an error here, and probably in top right corner here you can get another information on what's wrong with your query, right? But in our scenario, this one is good, and you can also see the number of bytes that are processed. In this case, this is 0 bytes because we have this data sitting outside of BigQuery, so it's not going to be scanning any bytes within BigQuery environment. All right. Okay, so we again want to filter for movies that were produced in South Africa. We will order by release here, and let's probably do this on descending. Okay, and then we'll just go ahead and run this query. Okay, so that is going to run, and as you can see, our query has now come back with the results. We do have 30 records here, meaning for this data we have 30 movies that were produced in South Africa, and you can see the titles for this. So you can see here we have Blood and Water, the actors or cast that appear in this movie. Okay, and this one was released in 2021. This seems to be a series, contains 2 seasons, and also the description for this. Okay, and you can just scroll down here, just see, you know, some of the other movies. Okay, so you can see this one, Kings of Joburg, uh who the actors were. All right, and this one seems to be a crime TV show, and the description of this movie or a series, right? Okay, so you know, you can basically run again queries against this file here as you would if you are running queries against a table in BigQuery. So you can basically treat this as a regular table within BigQuery environment. But again, with this one, your data is living outside of BigQuery, and you can get that information when you go to this table. If you click into this and just go to details, you will see that this is an external table, and this is the URL. You can click to it, takes you to where the file is located. Alright guys, so that's all I had for you in this video. I just quickly wanted to show you how to load data from Google Sheets to Google BigQuery. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, please give it thumbs up, and also do subscribe to the channel if you have not, so that you can stay updated for videos like this in future. All right, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.